Kia ora. In this bulletin, the Chinese asylum seekers in Darwin now face being sent to a detention centre in Australia. They've decided to apply for asylum in Australia rather than come to New Zealand. However, the Australian government is yet to confirm this. ABC Darwin reporter Emma Masters says the group must still go through the usual protocol.
They will be taken into detention and their matter will be dealt with in the same way that it, is dealt with here in Australia, where they undergo mandatory detention and have to wait for all the processes to be undertaken.
Emma Masters says it would have been a dangerous journey to New Zealand as the group wasn't well equipped for the conditions. The Productivity Commission say there's a need for affordable starter homes like the ones New Zealand used to have in the 50s and 60s. The Commission has a number of recommendations aimed at making housing more affordable and accessible. They range from urgently increasing the availability of land to making building consent processes simpler. The Meat Workers Union is being questioned over its reporting of its finances. AFCO has laid a complaint with the Serious Fraud Office because it believes the union's declaration of $700,000 per annum is only a fraction of its total income. AFCO CEO Hamish Simpson says the company pays more than $500,000 to the union every year, and it's only a small portion of the union's membership.
They're calling for public donations. I guess from our point of view, every worker's dollar must be accounted for, and not only donations but also where are all the union fees going.
Hamish Simpson says the union's total income is more likely to be around $5 million. But the Meat Workers Union is calling the latest move by AFCO a publicity stunt to detract from negotiations being held tomorrow. The union says their accounts have been the subject of earlier complaints, all of which came to nothing. There's a clear sign that the government is slowing down its emissions trading scheme. A consultation document out today suggests changing the way forestry is treated, a maximum 3-year postponement of the agriculture sector's inclusion, and the softening of the transition to a higher carbon price for some industries. Climate Change Minister Tim Grosser says it's about getting the right balance between reducing emissions and keeping costs down for businesses and households. Overseas, US Republican candidate Rick Santorum has stepped back from the race for his party's presidential nomination. Mr. Santorum, who has attracted a great deal of support from the Christian community, now leaves the way open for his rival, Mitt Romney. He told reporters that the weekend hospitalisation of his youngest daughter, Isabella, due to a rare genetic condition, gave them pause for thought over the nomination race.
But it did cause us to think, and as the role that we have as parents and in her life and with the rest of our family, and this was a time for prayer and thought over this past weekend, and just like it was, frankly, when we decided to get into this race.
Mr. Santorum says he is still campaigning for the Republicans. It seems the Australians haven't yet got over the World Trade Organization's ruling to allow New Zealand apples into Australia. After 90 years, kiwi apples were allowed to be exported across the ditch last year. But at the Sydney Easter Show, the Woolworths Food Pavilion had a biosecurity stand, and Kiwi visitor Lachlan Langbine says he was shocked to see New Zealand apples prominently displayed, but as a biosecurity threat. Finally, probably the unlikeliest contestants in this year's Eurovision Song Contest is this year's Russian entry. The Buranova Grannies are aged between 43 and 76 and come from a remote village in the foothills of the Ural Mountains. Their song, Party for Everybody, is now one of the favourites to win. Advancing years must be the theme for this year's contest. The UK's entry will be sung by 75-year-old Engelbert Humperdinck. So for us all here on the news team, we're going to brush up our dance steps. In the meantime, from all of us, ka kite anō.